I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I am Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, a podcast where we pit Avengers versus X-Men. We talk about them. We clash our action figures, our figs around, and we bash them up and see who comes up as a winner. Thanks for bearing with us. We took a little bit of a break when we did What If, and we are back on our normal schedule. So you're going to have episodes Saturdays and Wednesdays from this point forward until we decide to change it.
Until we decide to do another movie or TV show.
or unless you listen to these on the Patreon, in which case basically nothing has changed for you in like 5 years. So
yeah, or you are in Patreon stasis. Or we just decided to change it arbitrarily.
Yeah.
You know, like a couple of Riddlers, the podcast Riddlers.
We're going to cover every item, trinket, and gun, and everything to Gungeon.
Everything to Gungy. It's happening. This is, I'll admit, last week and then the week before I was feeling a little bit, I think you and I were both feeling a little down on our idea to do this entire crossover.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But this is a good week. All these issues justify their presence in the crossover. And they're generally well written and fun to read.
And even the stuff that seems like it would be a little off the wall, like a whole issue that focuses on Mr. Sinister or that focuses on, I think it's Frenzy. It ended up being really very interesting or cool, and have something to say about in either contradiction or at least about the overall arc. Like it's just these are really good tie-ins. And we're in kind of a weird moment. So we covered Avengers versus X-Men 5 in the last session. So we know that we have our Phoenix 5 out there, and we're through these like next 4 issues. We're kind of going to see what they've been doing through the lens of just all of these people, of these other people in the world, which is a kind of a cool thing. Like that's kind of a neat way to experience this. I think I don't know if you are kind of digging that or not.
I'm good with it. I don't know if I wonder if we were reading these in real life when they came out, if we'd see more of this stuff firsthand. If this is how they planned it to just switch, that's really cool because the Phoenix 5 are supposed to be kind of alien intelligences, not doing anything from their perspective. Like from that point on is a really cool idea.
Exactly. Yeah. Just seeing, watching what's happening through the lens of everybody else as, you see these like godlike beings doing a bunch of crazy shit without really understanding what their motivations are at this point.
Yep.
And only over time kind of learning that. But before we get into any of that stuff, we have to wrap up one issue that we kind of skipped over along the way, which was X-Men Legacy 267. This is going to wrap up our little arc at the school. So for people at home that may or may not remember, some of the X-Men stayed behind with the kids at Wolverine's Academy. Rogue specifically, which is what this title who this title centers around, has this moment of like, do I want to get out there? What reason would I get out there for it? And it's just interesting. So she stayed behind. She's not going to participate in this war. And then the Avengers come a-calling, and we're going to pick this up in the middle of a fight.
Yeah. The big reveal at the end of the last one was that they had an Iron Man. So we're going to see the fallout from that.
Yes.
And the last one had a lot more Rogue internally remembering fighting the Avengers. A lot more happens in this one.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of a breaking point. Like this is an important issue because it's the rest of the fence sitters getting off the fence and enjoying the war.
And it's has a lot less of the Avengers talking, which I think is always successful to me.
at least in this title. Yeah, like I like the Avengers talking in some titles, but I don't know that Christos Gage has the best handle on those guys. Let's get into it. It's Christos Gage on this. Cover it's just a fight, and a fight we are going to see. The art in this is generally good.
Yeah, absolutely.
This the Sandoval guy. Not too bad. Not too shabby. And my little thing here decided to hang up.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah, just I couldn't sign. I knew we were complaining about the app last week. It won't recognize my password right now.
Oh, good.
So I had to revisit my computer, which was irritating.
I
usually refresh my memory while recording.
I feel like they had some sort of unannounced hacker list or something leak because it just randomly logged me out of the app, which is never done, and I had to log back in. So I'm thinking like maybe they had to clear out everybody's cookies or logins or whatever, and like, nope, we're gonna make sure the hackers can't get in. So,
which ostensibly a good thing.
Yeah.
But
Follow at DUFC Podcast for more news about Marvel hacking.
More complaining about the Marvel app. The only place on Twitter you can find complaining about Marvel. The only place.
Absolutely.
So we get into it. They're just about to get it on and start fighting last time.
Yes.
And we start with that. This Rogue remembering her first time she fought Iron Man and now fighting him again.
Yeah. And this is going to, we've got a couple of students and all of our teachers kind of out there. This is Iron Man, Cannonball, or Iron Man, Falcon, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk on the Avengers side. And then Cannonball, Gambit, Rogue, Mimic, who has joined the fight, who I think is still a student at this point. And also a couple of other teachers that we'll get to later. I love this like splash page where everybody is just kind of going at each other, and Gambit's just upside down for no reason.
Yep.
Just doing a little somersault, Gambit.
Yeah, he likes to flip.
Yeah.
This comic respects Gambit a lot more than a later comic we're going to talk about this week.
It's true.
And again, we talked about this last time, I'm sure, but I love that the Avengers just send like the remainders.
Yeah, just whoever's left.
The classic team up.
Yeah.
You know.
And very quickly, Iron Man takes out Cannonball. He's invulnerable while blasting, but he's not invulnerable to an ultrasonic blast. Cannonball is one of their heavy hitters, so this is going to hurt the X-Men pretty bad.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And Rogue kind of has this internal monologue about how they can't really win. Like, we used to have a numbers advantage, but it doesn't really matter because they have an Iron Man.
Yeah.
And this is at this point in the continuity, Rogue has learned to control her powers. So this is a big deal when she kind of crosses this horizon and decides, I have to do this old school. I'm going to start knocking people out and sucking out their powers. And starts by taking Falcon out of the fight.
Yeah. And this also has the benefit of rendering the person that she's touching unconscious. So it's just going to take them out entirely out of the fight.
She also uses Falcon's power to talk to birds to send 1,000 birds at Iron Man, which I would read an entire comic book of Iron Man versus birds.
Absolutely.
How often do you think Iron Man just fly into Fallujah to bomb it or whatever and just runs straight up into a bird that just smashes into his helmet?
Like, I mean, as much as that dude is flying, I would say it's happened dozens of times at this point. Like, he's
lands
probably
at the UN and he's covered in dead bugs.
He's, have you ever ridden on a motorcycle? Like, and just come back with a helmet just full of fucking mosquitoes and bugs and shit. Like, that's exactly what he's probably got a little Iron Man windshield wiper to clean it off before he lands somewhere.
Miniature Jarvis comes out and sweeps it at the Apollo. Sweeps off his face.
Maybe it's like 12 miniature Jarvises and they're all doing the Oompa Loompa song.
To clean the bug guts off Master's mask. But she sends a bunch of birds to Iron Man, which I love. Just knowing he's not going to murder a bunch of innocent birds.
It's very funny to me.
It's really good, and then kind of takes this opportunity to to punch him and get it a hit. But she obviously doesn't have enough strength. So She-Hulk comes up to kind of sucker punch her, but she has the Falcon's agility and sucks out She-Hulk's power.
Yeah,
as well.
So now she's all hulked up. And it makes her, she doesn't realize at this point that Jennifer was holding back all of the rage, and she absorbs all of that, and she almost instantly loses control, and to the point where she hits Frenzy and just right across from the face, which is her own team member. Like she's barely in control at this point.
Yeah, it's and she, this is something that old school Rogue did all the time. Would be able to handle this, but this Rogue is out of practice. Like having multiple voices in her head, and that's going to come up later. The students attempt to, they retreat. Kitty phases them in. The school's in lockdown, so she doesn't open the door. She asks Chamber what's going on, and Chamber's like, things are going to shit. The team is getting fucked. Rogue is there, and she's doing her best, but everybody, Iron Man's there as well, and Kitty joins the fight at this point.
And then we go back out, and Rogue has kind of gotten control of herself just in time to see that, Iron Man blasting Mimic. It's really funny to me. I don't really know a lot about Mimic, but just that his powers are, do you remember the 1960 X-Men is really funny to me. Mm-hmm. Like, not even like I'm just going to do this. Like, this is my power now.
It's so weird. He joined the X-Men for 2 issues in the 60s and then disappeared for a very long time. And then was the main character of Exiles for a while. I do not remember how he got wrapped back up with the X-Men, the mainstream X-Men again. But yeah, he's got like all the original X-Men's powers, but like to a lesser degree. So
sure,
cool.
I have the power to make things kind of cold.
Yeah, I can chill your beer, and I can push it off the table like a cat with my Cyclops beams.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can read one sentence at a time of your mind. Right now, you're thinking, why is this guy talking to me at the bar? I was clearly not interested.
I was thinking about this today because my cat was across the room, like making eyes at me. How come in an X-Men comic, no one's ever used telekinesis to pet an animal?
Oh, good question.
Like I would be using, if I was Jean Grey, all I would do is pet cats and dogs. You know?
So I guess the question there is if you could, because like half of the enjoyment of petting an animal is like feeling their fur and being able to feeling that warm flesh under your fingers. Can Jean Grey like feel what she touches? I know she like we went into some of that with the new Grant Morrison's new X-Men run.
Yeah,
but that was when she was all like kind of about to phoenix up. So I don't know if like her like
Hope can.
Oh yeah, Hope could. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Hope could. Yeah, Emma Frost could.
Frost.
I guess Emma Frost doesn't have telekinesis. Yeah. But
oh God, Quentin Quire probably can, and he's probably used that to just a horrible reporter series.
Absolute, like
he's just abused that power completely.
But it'd be very nice to just be able to like, I don't know. It's every once in a while in Portland, like it is etiquette to ask somebody if you can say hi to their dog.
Of course,
when you walk by, and 19 people out of 20 are like, of course. But every once in a while, someone goes, no, and like makes a face at you. And like, I would love to stick it to those people by petting their dogs with my mind.
Wow, Gary. Yeah. just gonna just barge in and pet their dog without consent. How dare you?
Yeah, it's it's not what Professor X would do.
I was about to call you the Professor Xavier of dog petting.
It's a Pekingese. This is during this whole thing when she's kind of losing control, Gambit is like, hey, are you doing okay? And kind of trying to encourage her.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, you can handle this. And this distracts him long enough for Moon Knight to knee him in the face.
Yeah. And Gambit and Moon Knight trade some quote unquote barbs back and forth. And then Gambit throws a couple of cards at him, which blows Moon Knight's like gloves off, which apparently was Moon Knight's plan, so he could jump up and touch Rogue, because she's in full like power absorption mode. And again, I don't know a lot about Moon Knight. I've not read any of his comics or anything. I keep meaning to, but apparently he has multiple personalities that he barely keeps under control. Yeah. So he is. So this is instantly a problem for Rogue.
The log line for Moon Knight is multiple personality Batman.
Yeah,
basically, who dresses in white, so he's easy to see at night.
I can't wait for all of the Twitters, the whole internet sphere to be thirsty for Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, because they're just thirsty for that dude in general. So just having him as a completely insane Batman archetype is going to be very funny to me.
It's going to be balanced by how much it's a Marvel thing and how much Twitter hates that. They're going to be like, yo, I am horny for this, but the military-industrial complex, I can't. They're fascist. They're really conflicted on Twitter that day, I'm sure.
It's going to be complicated.
And Benson and Moorhead are directing that show. It's going to be even harder because then you get the art school people in. What's Cole to do? You know?
Benson and Moorhead? Who is that? Is that the Endless people?
That's the Endless guys are doing the Moon Knight show.
What?
Did you know that? Yeah.
No, I didn't. We must have stumbled into this and that's how I knew about the Endless to watch it on your recommendation, and I just kind of forgot about the association. That's extremely exciting. I can't wait. Yeah.
I'm super excited. I cannot wait to see what those dudes do with like cape shit.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. But this overwhelms Rogue as his plan. So all of her voices are talking to her, including things from Mark Spector, who is Moon Knight's like past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the various abuses he's received.
And she pretty much just goes down at that point. And then Iron Man swoops in to fight Gambit and also explain to the audience what is happening with Rogue. And then just blows away Gambit. He's like, wow, you're pretty quick for my computer. Let me just make the beam wider. And meanwhile, Rogue is still just kind of grappling with all these different personalities, and the last one she thinks of is the rage of She-Hulk. He hurt Remy, make him pay, and she just slams into Iron Man's stomach, and sends him like
into his
chest thing. Yeah,
his capacitor thing.
Mm-hmm.
his arc reactor,
his flux
and
capacitor.
Like, the Rogue voice is like, doesn't he need that to live? And the other voice is like, yeah, that's why you had to hit him again. It's real cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's like, I shouldn't kill an Avenger. Like that's no good. You know, you don't live that down.
No, not at all. Yeah. They give funerals to Avengers, not to X-Men. Just saying.
Yeah. If you're lucky, Xavier buries you in a car and throws you in the ocean.
That's what we call a Black Widow.
I really wish this plan that Kitty Pryde did worked, because it's badass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she goes up to Frenzy and she's like, hey, I know you're new here. Do you know what a fastball special is? And Frenzy's like, I'm strong, not stupid. Of course I know what it is. And throws Kitty Pryde through Iron Man, which I've never seen that before. And that's incredibly cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Kitty Pryde disrupts technology when she goes through it. It just doesn't work. Iron Man planned for this because he's a jerk.
He has a contingency. I don't like this for a couple of different reasons, but the main one is just because I like Kitty Pryde and I don't like Iron Man.
I like Iron Man, but I like Kitty Pryde more than Iron Man.
I guess that's what Iron Man's fine. He's okay or whatever, but yeah.
In this scenario, I am in Avengers vs. X-Men. I am on the X-Men side.
Yes.
I do like how where this ends though is Kitty Pryde lands and she's like, Rogue, hey, listen, like that suit of armor, it's empty. It's a drone. Listen, there's not a person in there. Like, you can go fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And so she does. Like, Iron Man's about to take out Frenzy. She loses her cool, goes up and just punches through his chest.
And just literally rips apart his armor. Like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this just looks really cool. I think that in the hands of a lesser artist, this would be completely muddled and really, really hard to read. But I was just, when he's like, even though the line is really stupid, so I'm Rogue, so I'm giving you the boot, and she's like shoving her foot in the face or whatever. Like, it's still like really, really cool looking.
For the bad version of this, the Avengers Disassembled, where She-Hulk rips the Vision in half.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
That's some muddy art. Gambit, of course, is, still very close to Rogue. And he's like, do you know who you are? Do you know where we are? What's going on? And she gets back a hold of herself. And she's like, I'm Rogue, and I just beat the Avengers again, while crushing Iron Man's head into a cube.
Hell yeah.
In her hands. It's great.
And then the X-Men loads all of the unconscious Avengers up into their plane. It's like, we're gonna just program the autopilot. And I
love that so much. Can you imagine being back at the tower and like the Quinjet lands and just a couple like unconscious Avengers fall out? Like, it's so good.
Just recently on the interstate down here, I saw a report that what they said was that the plane had to make an emergency landing onto the interstate, and that it landed and touched down adjacent to a Ford F-150. And I'm like, did that motherfucker just land on a truck? Is that what you were trying to say through this? And I'm just picturing the Quinjet or whatever, just, Iron Man being like, oh yeah, we had to make contact with two F-350s, and Captain America going like, do you mean you just wrecked two trucks? Yeah.
Did you land on two trucks and the trucks drove you here? like a GTA cheat code? This is what Rogue says, like, we're not going to get away with this. Like, we can no longer sit on the sidelines because we just beat the crap out of the Avengers and send them back in their plane.
Yeah.
We have to take a side, tell Rachel and Iceman, tell them that we're in.
And there's a little bit of back and forth between her and Gambit where he's like, are you sure? Like, you didn't really want this fight. Like, and she's like, no, I was afraid of my past and I can't be afraid of that anymore. This is our future and we have to start looking forward. Yeah. And I like it. I'm excited to have Rogue, be on the front lines. Yeah, me too. Especially like badass Rogue like this. Like, this is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. This is some great Rogue content. Truly one of the best X-Men. Like, she's great.
And this is the last issue, I think, that's going to take place before the events of Avengers vs. X-Men 5. So in the next 3, make sure you kind of caught up with this, because in the next 3, we're going to start seeing the results of 5 random X-Men getting Phoenix powers. So
yeah, and it always goes well in superhero comics when someone gets a lot of power and decides to make a utopia.
Absolutely.
And fix the world.
always
goes well.
Always a positive. never a net loss.
You've ever read The Authority or Stormfront or Squadron Supreme or any of those comics.
Planetary.
They always work out great. So, this is a fun episode.
Yeah, fun issue. I like
one of the things
that
this week's of comics did for me is I was just like, man, I gotta read more of the comics that are around this era. because it's well after I checked out. And I just have just been feeling real spread thin, so I haven't had a chance to. But the next thing we're going to talk about, the issue of Uncanny X-Men, is fucking incredible. It's huge Grant Morrison vibes, and I really want to read the stuff that leads to it and everything that comes from it.
So yeah, I did that big because I got it. I was so excited about AVX. I didn't know enough about Hope Summers, so I was like, or Hope, I should say. Or Hope Summers, right? Yeah, Hope Summers. So I read like a bunch of stuff leading up to this and then just stopped when I caught up with all of the AVX issues. And so I'm so looking forward to getting back to all of these stuff that I was reading before because I didn't want to jump ahead of the podcast too much. Like I didn't want to, not for any like spoiler reasons, but I just kind of like to keep attention focused on exactly what we're doing. And we go at a relatively slow pace. Like normally I could chew out, 40 issues in a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
As opposed
these take 7 minutes to read.
Yeah. As opposed to 4 every 2 weeks.
Truly one of the worst values for your dollar when you're buying them individually.
But the Uncanny Run by Karen Gillian is just great. So great.
Yeah. I love it. It's so far it is incredibly good.
Yeah. If you like this, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Donate some bucks, give us some money, you get a bunch of benefits. All of that stuff is well organized and laid out on the Patreon website. You'll be able to figure everything out very easily. It means a lot to us if you do that.
Yeah. And then you can tell your friends if you have X-Men friends, which you should. By the time one of those memes, by the time you're 40, you should have a certain number of X-Men friends. Tell them about the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let them know what's happening with it. Let them know that we are the funniest X-Men podcast. Probably.
Yeah. And there are no other ones.
Yep. No other ones. No one's really thought to have this idea, which I thought was really strange. So
it's incredible. Yeah. No one's ever talked about the X-Men on the internet.
We'll be back in a couple of days with more AVX.